Nicole Chase and welcome to my channel. I create fun and colorful amigurumi crochet designs that are great for any skill level. In this video, I'll be showing you how to make my free crochet pattern for Daphne the Duck. This pattern is available in written form for free on my blog, or if you prefer, you can get the ad-free PDF on Etsy and Ravelry. In this video, I'll be making Daphne the Duck in Parfait Chunky yarn using a 5mm crochet hook. If you prefer to use worsted weight yarn, I recommend a 4mm crochet hook. In this video, I'll be following the color changes to make a mallard duck, but if you prefer, you can just make all of the pieces in one color to make this yellow duck. The pattern is followed exactly the same whether you're making a chenille yarn chunky duck or a worsted weight duck. The only thing that will be different is the hook size that you choose. You will need your crochet hook. I'm using a 5mm crochet hook with Parfait Chunky yarn, and when I use worsted yarn, I used a 4mm crochet hook, scissors, a stitch marker, pins or ammi sticks to hold your pieces in place, a tapestry needle, and polyfill stuffing. Let's get started. Starting with the bill, I will be using this golden mustard color for color A, and we'll begin with round 1, which starts with a chain 7. So first start with a slip knot and chain 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now in the second chain from your hook, work 1 single crochet and 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that leaves 1 chain remaining. And we will be working 3 single crochets into this final chain and working around to the other side of the chain. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And now working along the back side of the chain, we will work 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now in the final stitch, we will work 2 single crochets. And that completes round 1 with 14 stitches. Now we'll move on to round 2, where we'll be working 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So you can work your first single crochet and add your stitch marker and continue crocheting around. When you've reached the end of round 2, you will have a total of 14 stitches, and we'll be moving on to round 3. We'll be working a single crochet 2 together, followed by 1 single crochet in each of the next 5 stitches, and then repeating that around. So remove your stitch marker and work your first single crochet 2 together. I recommend using the invisible decrease, And to do that, you insert your hook into the first loop of the first stitch and the first loop of the second stitch. Draw up a loop, yarn over, and draw through both loops on your hook. And that completes your invisible decrease. Then add your stitch marker and work 1 single crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. And again, single crochet 2 together using the invisible decrease. And 1 single crochet in each of the next 5. And that completes the end of round 3 with a total of 12 stitches. For round 4, we will work 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So remove your stitch marker, work your first single crochet, replace your stitch marker, and continue crocheting around 1 single crochet in every stitch. Okay, and that completes our bill. So we will cut our yarn, yarn over, and pull all the way through. Pull tight, and then you can go ahead and remove your stitch marker. And we can lightly fill the bill with stuffing. Okay, and then we will just set this piece aside for later. Next, we will be making the feet, again using color A, and we'll begin with a chain 8. Start with a slip knot, and then work your 8 chains. And first we will begin in the second chain from your hook, working 1 single crochet, and then work 1 single crochet in each of the next 5 chains. Now working in the final chain, we will be working 3 single crochets around to the other side of the chain. 1, 2, 3. Now working on the opposite side of the chain, work 1 single crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. And working in the final stitch, we will work 2 single crochets. And that completes round 1 with a total of 16 stitches. Moving on to round 2, we will work 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So work your first single crochet and add your stitch marker. And continue with 1 single crochet in every stitch. And we've just finished round 2 with a total of 16 stitches. We'll now move on to round 3, which begins with a single crochet 2 together, followed by 1 single crochet in the next 6 stitches, repeating that around. And again, we will be using the invisible decrease. Work your first single crochet 2 together and replace your stitch marker. Then 1 single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. And again, single crochet 2 together. And 1 single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. And at the end of round 3, we will have a total of 14 stitches. Moving on to round 4, we will be working a single crochet 2 together, followed by 1 single crochet in each of the next 5 stitches, repeating that around. So begin with a single crochet 2 together. And replace your stitch marker. And 1 single crochet in each of the next 5. And again, single crochet 2 together. One single crochet in each of the next 5. And that completes round 4 with a total of 12 stitches. For round 5, we will work 1 single crochet in every stitch around. Remove your stitch marker, work your first single crochet, replace your stitch marker, and continue crocheting in every stitch around with 1 single crochet. Next, we will be moving on to round 6, where we'll begin with single crochet 2 together, and then we will work 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. And repeat again. Single crochet 2 together, and 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. And at the end of round 6, we will have a total of 10 stitches. And for round 7, we will be working 1 single crochet in every stitch around. When we finish round 7, we will have 10 stitches, and now we will be closing up the foot. So go ahead and remove your stitch marker, and for round 8, we will be working 5 single crochets across both sides to close this foot. Insert your hook into your very first single crochet and then insert it to the single crochet stitch directly across. And that is where you will work your first single crochet stitch. And again into the next stitch. And you'll see that those single crochet stitches are joining both sides. And after you've worked your 5 single crochets to close the foot, you will cut your yarn, yarn over and pull through, and pull that tight to fasten off. And that completes one foot, and you will need to repeat this to create a total of 2 feet. Now that we have our 2 feet, we'll move on to the body of the duck. In this tutorial, I am making the mallard duck, so I will be starting with the body with color B, which is brown. However, if you are making the yellow duck, you will just ignore all of the future color changes and just continue on in yellow or your chosen color. Starting with a magic ring, wrap the yarn around your 2 fingers toward you twice. Insert your hook under the first strand of yarn, pulling up the back piece of yarn and twist. And we will create a chain. And now we will be working inside the magic ring, working 6 single crochets. After you have your 6 single crochets, you will pull the magic ring closed. And I like to secure the magic ring with a knot. Next, we will be moving on to round 2, working 2 single crochets in every stitch around. Work your first 2 single crochets, and then you can insert your stitch marker into the very first stitch and continue on with 2 single crochets in every stitch around. When you've reached the end of round 2, you'll have a total of 12 stitches. Now moving on to round 3, we will be working 2 single crochets into the first stitch, 1 single crochet into the next, and continuing that around. So remove your stitch marker. Work your first 2 single crochets into that first stitch. Replace your stitch marker. 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and repeat around with 2 single crochets, followed by 1 single crochet, 2, 1, and so on. At the end of this round, you'll have a total of 18 stitches. And now we will move on to round 4. Remove your stitch marker and we'll work 2 single crochets into the first stitch. Replace your stitch marker into the first stitch of this round and work 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And we'll repeat that sequence around with 2 single crochets followed by 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. 2, 1, 1. At the end of round 4, you will have a total of 24 stitches. And now we'll move on to round 5. Remove your stitch marker. Work 2 single crochets into the first stitch. Replace your stitch marker. And now we will be working 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And we will be repeating that around with 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 single crochet in each of the next 3. At the end of this round, we will have a total of 30 stitches. Moving on to round 6, we will be working 2 single crochets into the first stitch. Replace your stitch marker into the first stitch of this round. And then we will work 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. And we'll be repeating that around with 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into each of the next 4. At the end of round 6, we will have a total of 36 stitches. Moving on to round 7, we will work 2 single crochets into the next stitch. Replace your stitch marker again into the first stitch of this round, and then 1 single crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. And again, 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into each of the next 5. At the end of round 7, you will have a total of 42 stitches. Now moving on to round 8, we will be working 1 single crochet in every stitch around. Work your first single crochet, replace your stitch marker, and continue crocheting all of the way around for round 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So continue crocheting 1 single crochet in every stitch around for rounds 8 through 13. You can go ahead and pause the video and we'll pick back up at round 14. Okay, now that we've finished rounds 8 through 13, we'll be moving on to round 14, which begins with a single crochet 2 together, followed by 1 single crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. So remove your stitch marker and work your first single crochet 2 together. And replace your stitch marker. And work 1 single crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. And then repeat that, single crochet 2 together, 1 single crochet in each of the next 5. And continue around, single crochet 2 together, 1 single crochet in each of the next 5. And at the end of round 14, you will have a total of 36 stitches. Now for round 15, we will remove our stitch marker, work your first single crochet, replace your stitch marker, and continue working 1 single crochet in every stitch around. Okay, and that's the end of round 15. We'll move on to round 16. For round 16, remove your stitch marker, and we will start with a single crochet 2 together. Replace your stitch marker, and work 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. And you will repeat that sequence around, single crochet 2 together, 1 single crochet in each of the next 4. And at the end of round 16, you will have a total of 30 stitches. Moving on to round 17, we will be working 1 single crochet in every stitch around. Work your first single crochet and replace your stitch marker. And continue with 1 single crochet in every stitch around. Okay, and that is the end of round 17. Moving on to round 18, remove your stitch marker, begin with a single crochet 2 together, replace your stitch marker, and work 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And we will continue repeating that single crochet 2 together, followed by 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches until you've reached the end of this round. At the end of round 18, you will have a total of 24 stitches. Moving on to round 19, we will be working 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So remove your stitch marker, work your first single crochet, and replace your stitch marker. And continue on with 1 single crochet in every stitch around. And that is the end of round 19. At this point, if you are making the mallard duck, we will be changing colors to white. If you are making the yellow duck, you can just continue on with the color that you've chosen. So I am making the mallard, so I am going to cut my yarn and join with white. Again, if you are doing the mallard pattern, you will need your next color, color C. I am using this off-white color. And I am going to be joining using my invisible color change method. I do have a full tutorial on that if you would like to watch that. Remove the stitch marker. Insert your hook into the back loop of your next stitch and draw up your new color and pull through until that is the only color on your hook. Then you will tie your yarn, and these yarn tails will remain on the inside of the piece. Now for round 20, we will be working 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So I'm going to work 1 single crochet into the very next stitch and add my stitch marker. And then that unworked front loop, we will come back to that at the end. So continue on with 1 single crochet in every stitch around. When you've reached the end of round 20 and that unworked front loop of the color change stitch, this is where the color change really is finished off. Insert your hook into that front loop that was left unworked, and then further insert your hook under the loops left from your color change, and then work your last single crochet. And as you continue working, this color change will remain a straight line. So that finishes off round 20. Moving on to round 21, remove your stitch marker, and we will start with a single crochet 2 together. replace your stitch marker. And then work 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And continue around with a single crochet 2 together and 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And that completes round 21 with a total of 18 stitches. At this point, if you are making the mallard duck, you will cut your white yarn and now we will stuff the body before moving on to the head. When stuffing, be sure to pull apart the pieces of your stuffing before inserting them into your piece. This helps to make sure that there are no lumps and bumps created in your finished plush. When you finish stuffing the body, it's time to move on to the head. Now moving on to the head, if you are making the mallard duck, you will need color D, which is green. And we will start with, again, the invisible color change. Remove your stitch marker. Insert your hook into the back loop of the next stitch. Draw up a loop with your new color. And tie your ends. Now for round 22, we'll be working in the front loops only, and we'll be working 2 single crochets into the first stitch and 1 single crochet in each of the next 2. So insert your hook into the front loop only of the next stitch and work 2 single crochets. And replace your stitch marker into the first stitch of this round. And 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, again working in the front loops only. And again 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into each of the next 2, and continue that around. Once you reach the end of round 22, we will be at that color change stitch, and we will work our final single crochet into the unworked front loop. And round 22 finishes with a total of 24 stitches. Now we will move on to round 23. Remove your stitch marker, and now we will again be working through both loops. Starting with 2 single crochets into the first stitch, and replace your stitch marker, and then 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And we will continue that around. 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into each of the next 3. At the end of round 23, we will have a total of 30 stitches. Moving on to round 24, remove your stitch marker, and we'll begin with 2 single crochets into the next stitch. Replace your stitch marker, and work 1 single crochet in each of the next 4. Repeat that around. 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. At the end of round 24, you will have a total of 36 stitches. Moving on to round 25, we will be working 1 single crochet in every stitch around, and you will continue that for 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. Remove your stitch marker, work your first single crochet, and replace your stitch marker. And work 1 single crochet in every stitch around for rounds 25 through 31. You can go ahead and pause the video until you reach the end of round 31. After completing rounds 25 through 31, we will move on to round 32. Remove your stitch marker, and we will be working a single crochet 2 together. Replace your stitch marker, and work 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. And we will continue that repeating sequence around with a single crochet 2 together, and 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. At the end of round 32, you will have a total of 30 stitches. Moving on to round 33, remove your stitch marker, and we'll begin with a single crochet 2 together, replace your stitch marker, and then work 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And we will repeat that around a single crochet 2 together, 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. At the end of round 33, you will have a total of 24 stitches. And at this point, we will be inserting our safety eyes. If you're using safety eyes, you will insert them now between rows 27 and 28 with about 5 stitches in between. So this is 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. And I'll insert the first eye. And count over 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we want to have 5 stitches showing between the eyes, not between the posts. If you counted 5 stitches between the posts, they would be a lot closer together because these safety eyes are so large. And also at this point, I like to just double check that I like the eye placement. So I'm just going to hold the bill right about where it will be sewn on to make sure that I like that. And now I will put the safety eye backs on. Okay, now we'll move on to our next round. Moving on to round 34, we will remove our stitch marker, work a single crochet 2 together, replace your stitch marker, and then we will work 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and we will repeat that sequence around with a single crochet 2 together, followed by 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And at the end of round 34, you will have a total of 18 stitches. And now we will add our stuffing to the head. As with before, make sure that you're pulling apart your stuffing. And then we will fill the head. After the head is stuffed, we will move on to round 35. Remove your stitch marker. And we'll begin with a single crochet 2 together. Replace your stitch marker and work 1 single crochet in the next stitch. And again, single crochet 2 together, 1 single crochet into the next stitch. And we will continue that all the way around. At the end of round 35, you will have a total of 12 stitches. Now we'll move on to round 36, where we'll be working a single crochet 2 together all the way around. So remove your stitch marker and work your first single crochet 2 together. Replace your stitch marker and repeat again a single crochet 2 together all the way around. At the end of round 36, you will have a total of 6 stitches. And at this point, we will cut the yarn. And I'm going to pull this strand of yarn through to fasten off. Remove that stitch marker. And now we're left with a small hole on the top of the head. If you need to add any additional stuffing at this point, you can do that now. Mine just needs a little bit. Okay. Now you will take your sewing needle and using your tail end of yarn, we're going to sew this hole closed. I like to go through the outside loops of each stitch. It gives a bit of a cleaner finish. And then you'll pull tight to close and secure with a knot. And then you can hide that end inside. Okay, and that completes the body and the head of our duck. Now we will move on to the wings. As I'm making the mallard duck, I'll be making the wings in this darker brown color. And that is color E. And for round 1, we'll start with a magic ring. And we will work 6 single crochets into that magic ring. And then we'll pull it closed. And I like to secure that magic ring with a knot. Now for round 2, we'll again be working 6 single crochets around, 1 single crochet in every stitch. I'm going to work my first single crochet and add my stitch marker. And continue around with 1 single crochet in every stitch. And moving on to round 3, remove your stitch marker, work 2 single crochets into the next stitch, replace your stitch marker into the first stitch of this round, and work 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and we will continue with 2 single crochets followed by 1 single crochet until we reach the end of this round. And at the end of round 3, we'll have a total of 9 stitches. Moving on to round 4, remove your stitch marker, work your first single crochet, replace your stitch marker, and work 1 single crochet in every stitch around. And now moving on to round 5, remove your stitch marker, work 2 single crochets into the first stitch, replace your stitch marker, and work 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And again, repeat around 2 single crochets into the next stitch, followed by 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. At the end of round 5, you'll have a total of 12 stitches. Now moving on to round 6, remove your stitch marker, work your first single crochet, replace your stitch marker, and work 1 single crochet in every stitch around. Now moving on to round 7, remove your stitch marker, work 2 single crochets into the first stitch, replace your stitch marker, and work 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And repeat that around, 2 single crochets into the first stitch, 1 single crochet into each of the next 3, 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into each of the next 3. At the end of round 7, you'll have a total of 15 stitches. Moving on to round 8, remove your stitch marker, work your first single crochet, and replace your stitch marker, and work 1 single crochet in every stitch around. Now we'll move on to round 9. Remove your stitch marker. Begin with a single crochet 2 together using the invisible decrease. Replace your stitch marker and work 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And repeat that, single crochet 2 together, 1 single crochet in each of the next 3. Now for round 10, we'll be working 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So remove your stitch marker and work your first single crochet and replace your stitch marker and work 1 single crochet in every stitch around. And moving on to round 11, we will begin with a single crochet 2 together, replace your stitch marker, and work 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And repeat that around, single crochet 2 together, 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. At the end of round 11, you'll have a total of 9 stitches. For round 12, you will work 1 single crochet in every stitch around. And for round 13, you will also work 1 single crochet in every stitch around. Now we'll move on to round 14, where we will be folding the wing closed and crocheting across. So remove your stitch marker, and we will be leaving this very last stitch, the last stitch of round 13, unworked. Insert your hook into the next stitch, and then working across, you will insert your hook into the next stitch, again leaving that last stitch of round 13 unworked, and work your first single crochet and continue that across, and you will have 4 single crochets. And that finishes the wing. Cut your yarn over and pull through to fasten off. And there is your first wing. You will need to repeat that again to make a second wing. After you've finished your 2 wings, we'll move on to the hair. For the mallard, I'll be using color D, which is green. And we'll start with a chain 8. Start with a slip knot and chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we will bring the ends of the chain together and slip stitch into the very first chain that you made. And that creates a little loop. And now again we will chain 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again we will join with a slip stitch into that same spot. So now we have 2 loops of hair. And again, chain 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and join with a slip stitch again. and you have 3 loops of hair. Now you can cut your yarn over and pull through to fasten off. And that finishes off your hair. Next, we'll be making the tail, which for the mallard duck will be done in color B, which is brown. And we will begin with a magic ring. And work 6 single crochets into the magic ring. And pull it tight. And I will tie a knot. Now we'll move on to round 2 and work 2 single crochets in every stitch around. I will work the first 2 single crochets and then add my stitch marker to the first stitch of this round. And continue around with 2 single crochets in every stitch. At the end of round 2, you will have a total of 12 stitches. Now we'll move on to round 3 and work 2 single crochets into the first stitch. And replace your stitch marker into the first stitch of this round. And then work 1 single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And again, 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into each of the next 3, and at the end of round 3, you will have a total of 15 stitches. Now for rounds 4, 5, and 6, we will work 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So round 4, remove your stitch marker and work your first single crochet, replace your stitch marker, and work 1 single crochet in every stitch. And the same for round 5. And again for round 6. Okay, now we will move on to round 7. Remove your stitch marker and you'll work 2 single crochets into the first stitch. Replace your stitch marker into the first stitch of this round and work 1 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. And repeat that around with 2 single crochets into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into each of the next 4. When you've completed round 7, you will have a total of 18 stitches. And now we will fill the tail with stuffing. We will be crocheting the tail closed, so insert just enough stuffing that you can still pinch it closed. And now for round 8, remove your stitch marker, and we will be working through both sides. And just like with the wing, we will be using that last stitch from the prior round unworked. Insert your hook into the next stitch and across. And there you can see our unworked stitch. This just leaves room for the fold and makes it a bit easier to close. And work your first single crochet and repeat that across for a total of 8 single crochet stitches. And for that last stitch, you'll notice that there is also an unworked stitch on this end. And again, that just helps to leave room for the fold. So after you've closed up the tail, cut your yarn and pull through. And that finishes the tail. For assembly, you will need your tapestry needle. I like to use T-pins to hold my pieces in place while I sew. And for larger pieces, I like to use Ami sticks or knitting needles to hold pieces in place. Let's get started. The first piece that we'll be attaching is the bill, and we will be attaching it over rounds 25 and 26, just between the eyes. After I find a placement that I like, I'll use the T-pins to hold it in place. And after I'm happy with the placement, we can go ahead and start sewing that in place. Using the yarn tail, I'm just going to sew around the edge of the bill to hold it in place. And as I'm using a chenille plush yarn, it can sometimes shed, so I'm going to be very gentle when I pull the strands through. And the whole time that I'm sewing, I'm going to continually check to make sure I'm happy with my placement. For this small piece, I'm just using the yarn tail of the chenille yarn to sew the piece in place. If the piece was a bit larger, I would likely use a worsted weight yarn for sewing, just to avoid any shedding of the yarn. As you can see, as I get towards the end of this piece, this yarn is shedding quite a bit, especially here where my tapestry needle is. But we are almost at the end. Okay, and before tying off, I'm again going to double check my placement. And then I will tie off. And now I will hide my yarn tail inside. And cut off any excess. Okay, and that finishes the bill. The next piece that we'll attach is the hair, which is pretty simple. It is going to go right on the top of the head, and you can just find where you closed up your last round and pin that in place. Double check that you like where that sits. And using your tapestry needle, we'll go ahead and attach that hair. And the hair won't require much sewing. I like to sew down for each loop. So I sewed once more on that side. Now I'll sew once more in the middle. And again on the other side. Now, rather than tying off and hiding the end inside just yet, I'm going to join these two ends together. So just double check the placement. And then I'm going to take the two ends that were on the hair, join them together with a knot. And then I'll hide those ends inside. Cut any excess. Okay, and now we'll attach the wings. Next, we'll be attaching the wings, and we'll be attaching them over rounds 18 to 20, leaving about 10 stitches in between each wing in the front of the body. So what I like to do first is identify the center, which is about here. And then we will find round 18. Which is here, 18, 19, 20. And the wings will be attached diagonally. So I'm going to hold that wing in place, and starting here in the middle, I'm going to count over 5 stitches since we're going to leave about 10 stitches between here. So the tip of my wing is going to start about here. And I will pin that in place. And the other edge of my wing, again, will be going diagonally down to row 18 and pin that in place as well. And I'm also going to add an Ammi stick here just to make sure that it doesn't come loose. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the other wing, counting over about 5 stitches. And again, the wing will go diagonal. And I will pin that in place. And I'll add this other Ammi stick to this side. And I'm just going to double check that I'm happy with the placement before I start sewing. Move this one back a bit. This is the great thing about using pins to help hold everything in place. You can see what the placement will look like before you sew. Okay, and now that I'm happy with the placement, I'll go ahead and start sewing these on. Using my tapestry needle, I'm going to start with this left wing. And just attach it here at the top. After I've sewn the top of the wing, I'm going to move on to the other wing. I'm not going to tie off this wing. We are not done sewing over there just yet. And again, I will sew the top of this right wing. Okay, now that I have the two wings secured at their tops, I'm going to just make sure that I like where everything is sitting. And then we're going to secure the wings up in about the middle so that they stay facing downward. So what I'm going to do is take my yarn tail and I'm going to insert into the piece to about the middle of where the wing sits. And I'm going to position the wing exactly how I would like it. And while holding down the top of the wing, I'm going to pull up the bottom so that I can see underneath here. And I'm going to loop my yarn through one of the stitches of the wing to secure it down. Going to pull my yarn tight, and I'm going to insert my yarn tail back into the piece and out the back side. And that will keep my wing facing downward. Now I'm going to do the same for this side. I'm going to insert my yarn into the piece down to about the middle of the wing. I'm going to line up where my yarn comes out at, where I'm going to secure the wing so that it matches on both sides. Now I'll identify where I want that wing to sit. And just like with the other side, I will hold down this top part of the wing, carefully lift up the bottom. And here you can see my yarn is a little too far towards the back. I need to shift that over. And again, I will just loop through one of the bottom stitches of the wing, pull through, and then I will insert my needle back into the piece and push my yarn through to the back. Now I'm just going to again check that I like the placement of the wings. And then on the back of the piece, I'm going to bring these two ends out of the same stitch. And tie them together. And then I'll hide them inside. This part is not something that you have to do. You could always tie off at the wing and hide each piece inside individually. I just like when a knot is made with two strands of yarn better than looping around with one. I just feel like it is more secure. And if during sewing your piece gets a little bit misshapen, you can use your tapestry needle to pull those pieces back up. Okay, now that we've attached the wings, we will attach our feet. Next we'll be attaching the feet. The feet will go between rounds 5 and 6 with about 3 stitches between. So first we'll find the round that we're attaching to. There's round 5 and 6, so we're going to be working right here in the middle. And I'm going to mark the center. Okay. Now the bottom of the foot will be sewn here. So leaving 3 stitches in between, I'm going to attach the end of the foot between rounds 5 and 6. And just to hold it in place, I'm going to add a pin here to the top as well. And again with the next foot. Leaving about 3 stitches between. And I will also pin the top of this foot just to hold it into place for now. And I will double check my placement. And I'm going to start sewing this one first, since the yarn tail is closest to the middle. That's just personal preference. So I will grab my tapestry needle and I'm just sewing the bottom part of the foot for now. And just like with the wing, after I have this bottom part sewn into place, I'm just going to leave the yarn tail and move on to the other foot. And again, just sew the bottom part of the foot here. And again, after you've reached the end of that bottom of the foot, just insert your yarn and do not tie it off. We are now going to secure the feet in an upright position. Just double check that you like the placement. And then I'm going to insert my hook into about the middle of the foot, the middle of where the foot lies. And as with the wings, I'm going to tack it down with one stitch to keep the feet facing upright. And then I'm going to insert my yarn into the piece and have it come out the center here as I'm going to join the two ends together like I did with the wings. If you prefer, you could always fasten off and hide each end in individually. After both feet are secure, you can tie the ends together and hide them inside. And cut off any excess. Okay. Now that the feet are sewn into place, we will move on to the tail. Next, we'll attach the tail between rounds 5 and 6 on the back of the body. So we'll flip the duck over and count up to round 5. And this is where the tail will be sewn. And we'll pin it in place. And I'm just going to double check that that is centered. And now we will sew the very bottom of the tail between rounds 5 and 6. When you've finished sewing down the tail between rounds 5 and 6, we will then secure the tail so that it stays in an upright position. So just like the wings and the feet, insert your yarn and have it come out to about where the middle of the tail will sit. And we will secure it. And once the tail is in place, tie off your yarn and hide the yarn tail inside. And cut off any excess. Now we'll be adding the white outline around the safety eyes. I like to use worsted weight acrylic yarn when working with plush yarn to do the details. You could use plush yarn as well. First, I'm going to insert the yarn in between the middle of the eyes and have it come out just at the bottom center of the safety eye. And this yarn is going to wrap around the side, and I'm going to insert my needle again into the top center of this safety eye. And for now, I'm just going to insert my needle in the direction of the other eye. And I'm going to slowly pull that tighter. And when it's pretty snug against the safety eye, then you can go ahead and pull that to the side. You can tuck it under the edges of your safety eye to hold it in place. And now we're going to do the same for the other eye. So I'm going to insert my yarn and have it come out again at the center bottom of the next safety eye. And it is also going to wrap around the side, and I'm going to insert my needle in the top center of the safety eye, and I'm going to have it come out in the same stitch where my yarn tail is. And I'm going to pull that tight and then again slide it over to the side. And once I'm happy with that, I'm going to tie these two yarn tails together. And then hide them inside the piece. And cut off any excess. And that completes the tutorial for Daphne the Duck. You can find the full written pattern for free on my blog, www.thenicolechase.com. Thanks for watching.